Good morning, YouTube. Matthew back here with you today. As you can see, I got a massive amount of cards in this hand, and all of this showed up in my mailbox yesterday. So I wanted to do a video today and share it with you. And I thought I would go ahead and do it this morning. Got a busy day today, and so I said, let's go ahead and get this done early before we start getting ready to go on with the day, because I figured I won't have time later. First, uh, I'll share with you I had a TTM. I also had, let's see here, it was one, two, three, four, five, six, seven, eight, one TTM and eight recent pickups. One was an eBay purchase, and seven were group pickups. So anyway, first the TTM. The TTM came from former Red Sox catcher Mark Sullivan. And I wrote to him about 2 weeks before Christmas. And I sent him three cards. And one of them, actually, all three of them were Topps cards: 86, 87, and 88. The 88 Topps card I already had autographed for the 88 Topps project I've been working on. But as you can see, I had wrote to him about 3 years ago, and I had sent this card at the time with some other cards that I had of him. This card, as you can see, is off center, and it's off center bad enough that this time I sent. This is the reason I decided to write to him again. Just a few weeks ago, this card is very well centered compared to this. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to put this card in the master set, the 88 Topps project, and this card that is more off center, I'm going to put aside in a binder of just random uh, TTMs that I got back, which is where these two will go, because I'm not really working on these sets, and I don't really collect Red Sox. I mean, nothing against the Red Sox. I'm just saying I'm not building in either of these sets. I do collect TTMs though, and so I'll put them in a album binder of TTMs that I got returns from that don't really go with a set or anything else. Okay, and then on to the 88 Topps pickups. These are group pickups. The first one, let's see, there was several from one guy. And if you're wondering what group I'm talking about, a Facebook group um, that I'm a member of, it's TTM Buy Sell Trade is basically I think the name of it. I'm pretty sure. I've been in a group for years. I never really look at the name, and I've been in the group for years. It's a great group. A lot of collectors, a lot of long-time collectors and dealers, that people that I've dealt with so many times over the last 5, 6 years that you know. But anyway, and I don't know. I think I had told Sean. He's the only one I think I told about that I had a YouTube channel. But Sean, if you're watching, thank you very, very much. This helps a ton. Two others that I picked up cards from. Um, I think this guy was named Brian, but anyway, I picked up Neil Allen for the set. Um, Blue Sharpie. Sorry about that glare. I don't know how bad that is, but signed in Blue Sharpie, Neil Allen, Yankees, and got that for the set. Needed it, and I was able to pick that up for a couple of bucks in a sale, a TTM sale that he did, or an autograph sale that he did, and it's cheaper than anything I could have purchased offline at this time. And that's one of the reasons I picked some of these up. Look to pick these up in Facebook groups. If you're new to autograph collecting, you can find lot better deals a lot of times in Facebook groups. I'm not talking about Facebook Marketplace, Facebook groups, autograph, but you have to watch. You have to know what you're doing. If you've been collecting autographs as long as I have, especially from the era of the 70s, 80s, 90s players in that era, you over time see enough autographs that you can kind of tell if something looks off on a lot of players. And for one, I will tell you right now, there is a lot on eBay that people think, well, I hear it all the time. Why would somebody want to, forge an autograph of a common player that, isn't worth anything? They think that these people that would only forge an autograph are going to do it with the Mickey Mantles or the, Barry Bondses of the world. And I hate to tell you this, but there's always going to be that con guy that if he can turn a 5 cent card into a $5, a card that he can sell for $5 on eBay, he's going to do it. And he's going to prey on the newer autograph collectors or the people that just don't pay attention. And I will, like, before I will pick up a card, I will compare it. And one way you can compare autograph signatures is just simply open up whatever web browser you use. Type in, for example, Terry Pendleton. This is the next one I'll show you right here. Blue Sharpie autograph. Really nice pickup for the set. I'm really happy. Pendleton, former National League MVP with the Braves. He was a great third baseman for the Cardinals, though, for years before he joined the Braves in the early 90s. And there was something on the outside of that case there. But anyway, there's that. I'm sorry about the glare here from the light. But anyway, you can go on any search engine, type in like Terry Pendleton signed card or autographed card. You're going to have all these images come up. All right. And when you do, just simply pull some of them up and zoom in. Especially find one find a couple that's been authenticated if you can. Now, some guys that are, you know, common guys, you're not going to find authenticated examples, but you'll find enough examples that you can compare their signature with what's on the card. Now, yes, player signatures do change, and that's something else, especially with guys that sign a lot, the star players. Their signatures will change every time. Um, I'm working on this 88 Tops project. I will tell you, you can look at every star in the set, guys like Barry Bonds, who was young when the set came out. Jose Canseco's another, was young when the set came out. And then you got veteran players that were stars, but they have been around for, most of their career was over already, like guys like Mike Schmidt, George Brett, you know, Phil Negro, Joe Negro, um, Steve Carlton, guys like that. They might have been playing in 1987, but the bulk of their career had already been played, and they have been signing for years. So you can look at autograph examples of these guys, these star players, when they were young, and you can compare an autograph they signed in the 1970s, for example, to an autograph that they signed in the 1990s, and it might look vastly different. In some cases, totally different. Barry Bonds, for example, you look at his autograph when he was playing, and you look at what his autograph looks like in the 2000s. And I'm picking somebody here. Bonds is somebody that refuses to sign anything anymore. But Bond's autograph changed so dramatically. I mean, dramatically, it doesn't look anything like his playing days. Um, and there's a lot of guys that it just as demand for their signature, upticked, they just simply changed how they sign. Some guys, actually, it happens with age. As a guy that writes to players through the mail, I can tell you this. A few years ago, I wrote to, it's probably about 4 or 5 years ago, I wrote to a pitcher named Joe Coleman. Now, a lot of people don't know Joe Coleman today, but he was a great pitcher back in the 60s and the 70s. Coleman won over 200 games in his career, I do believe. He won 20 games several times. He was a workhorse ace for, I think, the Detroit Tigers. I can't remember. I know he played for, I remember him best for being in sets that were, easy, like for me to get cards of him when I was a kid, like the late 70s. He played with the Oakland A's, the Pittsburgh Pirates. But he was at the end of his career at that time. But he was a workhorse, one of the best pitchers in the American League. And anyway, Joe Coleman's signature, when I got like a return back, and it was so shaky, and I knew when I looked at it, I thought, well, the guy's like 80 years old, you know, so yeah, he was probably like 85. So I'm thinking, of course, his signature isn't going to look like it did 20 years ago because the guy's older, and sadly, as we age, our handwriting doesn't look as neat or whatever. Some of us that never look neat like mine. But anyway, on to the video. Pendleton is a big pickup for the set. He's not easy to get through. He doesn't sign through the mail past pros. And I got this picked this up. It was like I gave $5 for it in a group pickup. Pendleton is worth that to me. Um, Now this one right here, and these are from Sean, and Sean cut me a great deal. Sean's the kind of guy, I bought so many cards from him. He always, I will say, he always cuts me a good deal because I bought so many cards from him in the past. He's even bought cards from me at times when I did sales in the group years ago. But Sean set me up with 5 cards I needed for the set. And I'm really thrilled to get these. The first one here is very tough to get. Mario Soto. And here is another example of a pitcher that was a great pitcher, but sadly, he played for the Reds during a time. He was coming up, first reaching the majors at a time when the big red machine of the 70s was starting to wind down because he made it to the majors in 77 and as a rookie. And he didn't come into his own until the 80s. And by the time he turned into an ace pitcher, the Reds were basically rebuild mode. And so then by the time the Reds started to really get a lot of good young talent on their, by the late 80s, arm injuries in 1986 had zapped Soto of his abilities, and he was no longer the stud pitcher that he was in the early to mid 80s. And but from honestly from 1981 through 1985, he was probably arguably one of the very best pitchers in the National League, right up there, the top 3. And I was really happy to get that one. And that was in blue Sharpie. Alfredo Griffin. Now, I still need Griffin for the traded set. He's in the traded set with the Dodgers, but this is him with the Oakland A's. And I'm not sure, from my side, everything is glaring so bad. I'm not sure how the signatures are showing up, but I'm sorry if they're not showing up very, very well. Here's Kevin Seitzer, who was a big rookie in this set. When this set came out in 1988, Seitzer had just had such a great rookie year in with the Royals, in '87. This rookie cup card, I remember dealers selling this card at like flea markets and card shops, $1.50 book value at the time, $1.50. I remember that as a kid, and now you could find this in a commons box anywhere that had, I mean, you know what I mean? But Sasser did have a long career. He just never was a superstar. But anyway, got that one knocked down. Moose Haas, who used to be a good TTMer, but I haven't seen a return in any of my TTM groups from this guy. And looking on SCF and sportscollectors.net, I can't find anybody getting a return from this guy in a pretty good while. So, or I hadn't. It wasn't. I didn't look recently, but I've seen that Sean had him. He showed me what he had for 88 tops. He had this, and Sean's a guy that buys collections from people, and so he had this. It's in blue Sharpie. I grabbed it, and this is another tough one. Gino Petroli. I might be butchering the name, but blue Sharpie, nice signature on this card. Former longtime Rangers catcher, and I believe he was known for being Charlie Huff's personal catcher with the Rangers, the knuckleballer Charlie Huff. And Sean, I got all these tough to get autographs for the '88 set. I got all those basically for what I paid him for them. It averaged out like $3 a piece, and for what I would have been paying for those, buying them from elsewhere, I'm thrilled, and it just knocks out some, much needed, spots for the set. And then the big one, and this is the eBay purchase, Don Sutton, Hall of Famer, blue Sharpie. And I don't know, I'm sorry about the glare again. I'm going to try and, but anyway, it's the fact that it's so dark, it's so overcast outside that I had to turn the light on in the room, and then the room light wants to glare on everything. But anyway, Don Sutton, it's Beckett authenticated. Nothing special about it's not like it's the autograph wasn't, graded or anything. It's just a authenticated autographed 88 tops of a Hall of Fame pitcher, Don Sutton, who has sadly passed away now. And the fact that he passed away made me decide to go ahead and pull the trigger when I seen this. Um, the seller was not willing to budge, but it wasn't that bad. to me, to get an authenticated autograph of a Hall of Fame pitcher who is now deceased, even though he was a good signer through the mail, signed for free for years through the mail. Um, Sutton being passed away and me deciding to take on this project, I decided to grab it while I could. The funny thing is, Sutton is a Hall of Famer, and I paid less for this card here. I'm not going to tell you what I paid for it. I will say it was less than what you would expect, I'm sure. But I paid less for this autographed card here of Don Sutton, a Hall of Famer, than I paid for an autographed card that was authenticated of there was somebody the other day that I got in. I can't even remember it now. I'm sorry, but the guy, like, there's players. That's one of the things. There's players that are nothing. An example, okay, and it's one of the reasons I'm so thrilled to get this Soto. I have seen people list this very card autographed by Soto. Soto is so hard to get that I've seen dealers asking, $15 to $20 for this card, unauthenticated, signed by Soto, supposedly. And comparing this to other examples of his signature, I was very pleased to get this. But I've seen people, on eBay, they'll have an authenticated card. Example, that was a Kevin Mitchell card. Kevin Mitchell was a guy, former MVP in the National League, big star with the Giants in the late 80s, early 90s. He came up with the Mets. He was on the 86 Mets World Series team. But Kevin Mitchell, all right, Mitchell's never going, I mean, he was a great player at a time, great power hitter, but Mitchell's never going to be a Hall of Famer. At the same time, I mean, the day I bought this, there was a Kevin Mitchell autographed SGC authenticated card on eBay. The seller that had that listed had it listed for more than I paid for this. So, I mean, if I can get an authenticated autograph Hall of Famer for less than a guy like that, I'll take it. And it was less than $40. Okay, and to some people that I've always been a guy that was a very much bargain hunter when it came to collecting. I'm talking about I wanted to get as little, like I was the kind of collector that no matter what something book valued, I didn't care what it was. I was always the kind of guy that wanted something for nothing. You know, I'm the kind of guy that I was not interested in going and saying, yeah, I know the book value is on this. I know what the, current going, I know what these cards have been selling for, so I'm willing to pay this. No, I wasn't that guy. I was the kind of guy that was going to show up at your yard sale and go, what you want for everything, you know? I wasn't going to say what you want for this card. I was going to say what you want to save me time of having to look through it, what you want for everything. And then if I could get, like, I had to see something I wanted that I felt like I could I would just glance over things. I was the kind of guy that would be like, okay, he's got a card here that I know I could sell for $50, right here. A raw Griffey Jr. rookie card, upper deck. So since he's got that card, I'll offer him $50 for everything he's got on the table. Because this is a yard sale. A lot of times at yard sales, people just want to get rid of everything. But I was the kind of guy that was looking to buy your collection out for a dirt cheap price. Flip the one or two best cards you had real quick to get my money back, and then pilfer off the rest of it. And at the same time, add to my collection from what you had. And that was the kind of collector I was. Now now that I'm getting older, I don't know how many more days I got left in this world. I decided to take on this 88 Tops project. I'm like, go for it, which I still try to get as good a bargain as I can, which is why I'm going into Facebook groups. Facebook groups not only help me get bargains, but they help me fill holes for the set quicker. So, because I'm wanting, now I got this project started, it's not, to me, it's like, I want to get moving, on this project. All right, I already had did a totals update, and this is no, that ain't Liza. Okay, sorry, I saw a white car coming up the street here, and I thought it was a lady that rents a house from Roseanne. She rents Roseanne's parents' house from Roseanne. But anyway, I've got 483 cards autographed for the 88 Tops set now. And that is out of 792 cards. So we're really jumping up the ladder now on this set. And on the traded set, as you can see there, we've got 68 out of 132. And I say this every video that I mention this, but I've got checklists in parentheses. That's just to say, like the regular set, there's 6 checklists. I will not be looking to get those autographed. Some collectors do, not me. The team leader cards, yes. I'm trying to get them autographed by people, but not the regular checklist. I just try to get mint condition checklist. But anyway, sorry this video was a little bit longer. Talked a little bit more, but I love talking about baseball. Thrilled with these. This was a big mail day. 1 TTM, 8 pickups for the 88 Tops project, and 1 Hall of Fame authenticated autograph. And thrilled, with that. It's not as, to a lot of people, they're going to be like, well, yeah, but he's not as big. It's not like, Kirby Puckett or Tony Gwynn, but it's a deceased Hall of Famer nonetheless. And the only reason that he's not up there with Tony Gwynn or Kirby Puckett, he didn't sign. I mean, he signed through the mail for free for years, which means that there's a lot more of his autographs out there than there are guys like Tony Gwynn. He also lived a lot longer than Tony Gwynn. He lived a lot longer than, by far, than Kirby Puckett. So, you know, that's why they're pricier. If you're somebody that's really, into 80s autographs, or you're collecting autographs of star players from the 80s, then you're going to learn. Guys that died sooner, their autographs are going to be harder to find. Therefore, their process is going to be more. Doesn't mean necessarily that this guy isn't no big deal. This guy was a big deal in his career, and he was a big deal in the 70s, even in the late 60s. He had a long career, but he's a Hall of Famer, and he's passed away now, and his autograph is only going to go up in value. So I feel like this is a good investment, not just for my project, but long-term collection. Um, One thing I have learned in all my life, and even, I was collecting as a kid in the booming days of the 80s, and then the card market fell apart after the player strike in 94, and that combined with oversaturation of just, they were mass producing cards so much, the bottom fell out of everything, though, with the player strike in 94, no World Series in 94. Everybody like me, by then I was in my, early, like I was about 20 years old, and I'm like, you know what? No, I was 19, but I was like, and I just like everybody else, I was like, heck with collecting. I'm not collecting no more. I still had everything, but I just quit collecting, and then I sold out tons of stuff I had. I did get back into collecting a little bit later at times, but I then I ended up selling everything I had, my entire collection, and then I picked it back up. About We got back in, started getting back into cards a little bit about 2015, and fell back in love with the hobby. But I seen it when it was the booming days of the 80s, and I don't care about the COVID. Everybody talks about, oh, the COVID boom. No, and us older guys, we know, even during COVID, that was nothing like the 1980s. In the 1980s, no lie, when I grew up as a kid, you could go, and this is when cards were 50 cent a pack, 35 cent a pack. I remember 30 cent a pack, okay, to be honest with you. I remember paying 30 cent a pack as a kid, okay, saving my little change up and getting 30 cent packs of 1982 or whatever Topps cards. I remember, dirt cheap cards, and I think like it might have been a quarter. I don't know. It was cheap though, but I remember saving pocket change up. But anyway, in the 1980s, you could go to any gas station. They have baseball cards. Anywhere. They would be on the candy aisle. And you could go into any town of any size. Chances are, Main Street of that town, you're going to find a shop that sold baseball cards. A lot of times, bookstores sold baseball cards. Um, there was a store, Page's Bookstore in Mountain, North Carolina, where right below where I grew up, which is better known from being Mayberry, Andy Griffith's hometown. But anyway, called Page's Bookstore. guy. It was like a place where you went in. Back in those days, it was pre-internet days. This guy sold books, magazines, everything. It was like a newsstand, but he also sold baseball cards. He had tons of baseball cards, comic books. It was like a dream store for kids, and I loved that store. And then there was Mayberry Mall, and they had like stores that just tons of cards. Everywhere you went in the 80s, you could find baseball cards. You went to a flea market, there might be 10 dealers selling baseball cards. And by the 90s, that all faded away. That faded away. And by the time I was deciding to get out of collecting, you could go to, I remember going with my first wife to yard sales, and I would see people that had collected their whole life, like I had up to that point, just boxes of their entire collection. And it's kind of sad to think about it now that I was getting out of the hobby too, because in those days, I remember seeing boxes, people having cards like complete sets, 1978 tops, 1979 tops, stuff like that, late 70s cards. And the whole box, $20, just take it all, you know. And people just getting rid of their stuff because fans got so turned off with the player strike and the oversaturation of cards in the market, people just quit collecting in those days. But I remember the boom of the 80s. There's never been more of a card collecting craze than the 1980s in baseball cards. And it'll always be that way, probably. There'll never be a generation quite like that. Nothing against the modern generation. eBay is, to be honest with you, to me, keeps things like that from happening. Right now, the problem with eBay is you've got people that don't want to admit that the same problem that happened back then in the 90s has happened today. There's too much out there. And to be honest with you, there's more cards being made right now than there are people collecting. And you got too many people that are in the hobby that are not in it to collect like me at this point. They're in it only to make money. Only to make money now, just to flip something. They're not collectors. They're not even sports fans a lot of times. They can't tell you, for example, a thing about a Hall of Famer like Don Sutton. All they know is his autograph isn't worth $100, so they don't want it. You know, that's the kind of people that's in the hobby, and sadly, that's what drives eBay. You also have these problems with comps. Okay, that's another video altogether. I'm not going to get into it, but comps can be rigged, okay, very easily. But um, but anyway, thank you all for watching. I'm really excited about the progress we're making on the Tops project. I was also excited to get that TTM back from Mark Sullivan so quickly, and I wasn't expecting that to come in that quick. So anyway, thank you for watching. It's New Year's Eve. Everybody have a great New Year's. Happy New Year's to everybody. And I'll be back again soon in the coming year with a lot more videos.